They Said, We Said. This is John giving you my very first Preacher review, weekly spoiler review for Preacher. This one's for episode 1, season 2, On the Road. So I really dug Preacher season 1. There was a lot of detractors from this series, but you know, I kind of stuck with it. I read the comics, so I kind of know how weird and creepy it could get, and I am totally on board. Wasn't my favorite show of all time, season 1 Preacher. It did have a lot of problems, and it was quite a bit of a mess, but it was wildly entertaining, and now that I have the channel, I cannot wait to bring you guys spoiler reviews for season 2. So let's get you on the road. We have the search for God, day 1. We have a car chase. It's our 3 main characters on the road in Tulip's car, all singing Come On Eileen. What else could be, I mean, there's nothing else that could be greater, right? This is just a great time with our main cast having a good old time. Well, Tulip's going a little bit above the speed limit, so they do get pulled over, and then once everything is just kind of going how Preacher goes, they put Cassidy in the cop car. They basically see that, you know, something's up with him, because even though that poor boy did try to walk him over with the umbrella, because, you know, he believed him. You know, if someone says I'm going to burst into flames in the sunlight, why wouldn't you believe him? And just when the cops are about to pull him out, boom, you know, all shit hits the fan. There's brain matter, blood, viscera. I mean, this is the thing I don't understand. I review a couple AMC shows on this channel. And that's Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. And now Preacher. Preacher and Fear the Walking Dead could get away with so much violence. It had a freaking piece of intestines hanging out the back of a car that was just used to siphon gas. And Walking Dead gets in trouble for the Glenn and Abraham scene? Come on. Our first kind of interaction with Preacher and the cowboy from hell. Like I said, you know, all the cops are just kind of just blown away. They get into the car, like I mentioned earlier, with the siphon gas with the intestine. That was a great scene. And Tulip just has to make a pit stop because she can't get the taste out of her mouth of a young man's intestine. So they get to a gas station where the clerk is kind of upset. He's kind of putting 2 and 2 together until Jesse uses the word of God and tells him to forget that they're there. Sampling different items, try to get this taste out of her mouth. Cassidy, he says, hey, you know, I kind of know what you're talking about. I kind of eat people for a living. Try the Yoo-Hoo. So the you know, after stocking up on all the Yoo-Hoo and the hot sauce, and after a little kitty snack for Cassidy, they take off. Cowboy kind of rolls into town, asks the poor store clerk, this guy's having the worst day of his life, where the preacher is. You know, he says he doesn't know because he can't tell him because of the whole word of God thing. So the cowboy rips off his tongue. I guess he could read truth, you know, through all that, through the, even though that he was commanded not to say anything. I guess the cowboy could kind of, once he rips out the tongue, kind of read the truth on his tongue. Jesse knows another preacher in town, Reverend Mike, who has some very unconventional ways of breaking people of their vices. He has this young girl locked up in this cage with a you know, very important that it's a covered cage, you know, as Mike says. She is suffering from social media withdrawal, so she has to do that tweet and stuff like that. Would you feel very bad for her at first, and on face value, even Tulip's just like, this is fucked up. We gotta change this, or we gotta shut this down. And then later on, she's just like, just give me the phone. I need to make that tweet. So I know if I ever met, you know, Reverend Mike, my ass would probably be stuffed in this cage. However, Jesse kind of tells Mike that God is missing, that he is left, which Mike agrees that he kind of sees the kind of, or he kind of feels the vacancy, the void of God. So after they stay there for the night, you know, all squished together in one bed, very nice and cozy, except for, you know, Cassidy snoring up a storm, they kind of take off. After Mike tells Jesse about this lady Tammy that was, you know, came to him for kind of, you know, breaking the whatever vice she was suffering from, and she basically said that she met God. Of course, in Preacher fashion, it turns out that Tammy works at a strip club called the She, and this is such a funny scene, because while Jesse and Tulip are talking to Tammy, you can see in the background that Cassidy is in one of the private rooms getting into a lot of trouble from the bodyguard. You know, he thought he had a 30-second touching thing, and it turned out not to be true. That's more of a food thing. But although if I drop something on the ground, I wouldn't pick it up after 30 seconds either. Tammy is talking, but after a while she is kind of done with talking. She doesn't want to talk about this anymore. And this is where Jesse and Tulip kind of debate. You know, Jesse just like, come on, let me just use the power that I have. Let me use the Genesis. and Tulip is really kind of handcuffing him, saying, you could do better than that. Just let it, try to get it out of her. Even resorting to beating the hell out of her is better than invading her brain and making her do things against her own free will. So while we're having this back and forth, there's a shot fired from the other room, goes right through Tammy, and right before she dies, Jesse is trying to ask which one of the girls that God came from, because, of course he probably fell in love with one of the girls. No, you idiot, God came for the jazz. So our trio get back to a hotel room, and there's a reoccurring theme in this episode, which I'm sure is gonna kind of come to light soon enough, and that is the Amazing Gamesh. The Amazing Gamesh seems to be some kind of probably like Vegas performer, kind of magician. Looks very similar to one of the angels from last season, the ones that kept coming back, the ones that would wear the cowboy hats. I don't know. So after a very dysfunctional love scene between Jesse and Tulip, Jesse kind of wakes up from the middle of the night. He goes out to have a smoke, and there down the road, he sees the cowboy walking at him very slowly, very ominously, so he could basically see what's up, and goes to command him to stop walking at him. Well, the cowboy does not heed the word of God, especially someone coming straight from hell. So that is the episode of On the Road from Preacher Season 2. Super excited that this show is back, and very excited to bring the reviews to all of you. So I hope you guys are watching this show, and I hope you guys are watching these reviews because I like bringing them to you. So my name is John. You can find me on Twitter at OrzovDone. You could also find me on Facebook and on Instagram at They Said We Said. So I will see you guys next week for the Preacher spoiler review for Episode 2.